All right, so today we're going to dive deep into what it takes to build one of those killer finance careers everyone's after. And we've got like the ultimate guide right here with us, Sean Pat's book, Your Future in Finance.
Yeah, this book is great.
And for anyone who hasn't heard of him, Pat's a professor at UCLA, so he's seen it all when it comes to those ambitious students trying to make it big in finance.
You got like this insider knowledge, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
totally. And what I love about this chapter is that it's not about, picking the right finance job. It's about getting yourself ready before you even apply. It's like he's giving you the cheat codes before you even start the game.
Exactly. Like laying the groundwork.
Okay, so he jumps right in with college majors. And of course, finance and accounting, like that's a given, right?
Okay, those are the classics.
But then he throws this curveball, cognitive science. I'll be honest, that one threw me for a loop. Like, what does brain stuff and psychology have to do with Wall Street?
Right. I had the same thought. But then when you actually think about it, cognitive science is all about how people make decisions, their biases, how they process information. And that's huge in finance.
Yeah.
Especially now with fintech exploding.
So instead of just like crunching the numbers, you're understanding the psychology behind the numbers.
Exactly. Behavioral finance is a perfect example. It's all about why people make those like irrational financial decisions. And then when you're designing financial technology, that user experience is key. You need that cognitive science background to make those interfaces that are intuitive, maybe even a little addictive.
Okay, Pat's definitely onto something there. I can see how having that different perspective could give you a real edge. But then he hits us with the reality check, and this is where I started to sweat a little. He says internships are almost more important than your grades. Is it really that cutthroat out there?
Sadly.
Yeah.
Especially those top firms.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just ace the exams anymore. You need to show them you can actually handle the real world. And that's where those internships come in.
So it's like this whole other level of competition, almost like tryouts for the big leagues.
Exactly. It's your chance to prove yourself, network like crazy, meet the people who matter, and, see if you actually enjoy the day-to-day grind. Because, let's be real, finance isn't always glamorous.
Speaking of networking, Pat talks a lot about using your college's career center, but I don't know about you, but back in my day, those places were kind of underwhelming. Like stacks of brochures, but not a lot of real guidance.
Oh yeah, I totally get it. Career centers, they're definitely underutilized, I'll admit that. But they can actually be like gold mines of information.
Really?
Yeah, think about it. They often have those direct connections to companies, job boards with exclusive listings you won't find anywhere else. Even alumni networks just waiting to be tapped.
You're right. It's
Yeah.
easy to write them off, but that's a mistake.
Totally. Don't be the one missing out on a killer opportunity just because you didn't ask the right questions.
Point taken. So we've got the groundwork covered. Pick the right major, land that killer internship work, those networking events, like your life depends on it. But what about the human side of this whole finance world? How do you actually survive, let alone thrive in this high-pressure environment? Pat wouldn't leave us hanging there, would he?
No way. And this is where the book gets even more interesting. Pat actually gets personal and shares his own story about joining Toastmasters.
Wait, Toastmasters? As in public speaking? Was he like terrified of giving lectures or something?
You'd be surprised how many brilliant minds struggle with public speaking, even those who seem like natural-born leaders.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more about this whole Toastmasters thing.
So Pat was absolutely terrified of public speaking. Ironic, right? I mean, he's a professor. But he knew he had to overcome that fear to be successful. So he joined Toastmasters to learn and practice.
Wow, that takes guts. To admit a weakness like that and then actively work to improve.
Exactly. And I think it speaks volumes about his character. He doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. But it also highlights something crucial about the finance world. It's not just about the numbers.
You've got to be able to communicate those numbers, get people on board with your vision.
Exactly. And that's where the advice from those seasoned finance professionals Pat features in the book really comes in handy.
All right, hit me with some wisdom. What kind of gems are we talking about?
Well, there's William Cockram. He's like a legend at UCLA's Anderson School of Management, and he keeps it short and sweet. Learn to present, as you'll constantly need to sell your ideas.
Makes sense. You're not just crunching numbers, you're convincing people to trust you with their money, with their future.
Precisely. Communication skills are just as important as financial knowledge.
All right, what's next on our list of financial gurus?
Okay, we've got Bradley Luster, a real estate mogul. We're talking Forbes list, the whole 9 yards. And he stresses the importance of building your network early and often.
Okay, that's good advice for any field, right?
True. But he takes it a step further. He gives this really practical tip about checking in with your contacts every 6 months, just to, stay on the radar.
I like that. It's not just about collecting business cards, it's about nurturing those relationships over time. What else we got?
This next one is a real gem, and it comes from Keith Webster, a managing director at J.P. Morgan Wealth Management. His advice: invest client portfolios as if you had the same risk profile and it was your money.
Whoa, that's a powerful statement. It's like putting your money where your mouth is, literally.
Exactly. It speaks to integrity, to building trust. Webster is essentially saying, don't recommend anything to a client that you wouldn't do with your own hard-earned cash.
Okay, that's a high bar, but I get it. If you're going to be advising people on their financial future, you better be willing to bet on it yourself. Who's next on our list of financial gurus?
This one comes from Jason Weiss. He runs his own accounting firm and he keeps it short and sweet. Just say yes.
Wait a minute. Is he telling us to be a yes man? To just agree with everything our boss tells us to do? Because that doesn't sound like a recipe for success or integrity, for that matter.
No, not at all. He's not talking about blind obedience. He's talking about pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone, taking on new challenges, even if you're not an expert yet.
So it's more about saying yes to growth, even if it feels a little scary.
Precisely. And sometimes those most unexpected opportunities come from saying yes to things that scare you a little.
Yeah.
You'll never know what you're capable of until you push your own boundaries.
Love that. Now, this next piece of advice really resonates with me. It's from Shelby Notkin, a legend at Capital Group, who says to never try to time the market.
Oh, that's huge. And it's something that trips up so many new investors.
Yeah.
They think they can outsmart the market, but more often than not, they end up losing money.
So if we're not trying to time the market, what should we be focusing on?
Notkin emphasizes finding good companies with oligopolistic characteristics.
Oligopolistic characteristics. Remind me what that means again.
Sure. An oligopoly is basically a market dominated by a small number of powerful companies. Think of companies like Apple, Amazon, Google. They have such a strong hold on their respective markets that they can pretty much dictate the terms.
Right, because who's going to switch from their iPhone or stop shopping on Amazon at this point?
Exactly. These companies have massive brand recognition, loyal customer bases, and they're constantly innovating.
So Notkin's strategy is basically to find those companies that are already winning and ride that wave.
A bit more nuanced than that, of course. He still emphasizes doing your due diligence, understanding the company's financials, and really believing in their long-term vision. But finding companies with a strong market position is definitely a key part of his investment philosophy.
It's like finding those blue chip stocks that have stood the test of time.
Exactly. And he adds another layer to this. He says that management are the three most important factors in finding good companies.
So it's not just about the product or the market share, it's about the people at the helm, right?
Absolutely. Even a company with a killer product can falter if the leadership isn't up to par. You want to see a track record of strong decision-making, ethical behavior, and a genuine commitment to the company's long-term success.
So when you're researching a potential investment, don't just look at the numbers, look at the leadership team. Are they people you trust? Do they inspire confidence?
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, you're not just investing in a company, you're investing in the people running it.
Now that's a perspective you don't always hear, but it makes so much sense. Okay, I'm ready for our final piece of wisdom from Pat's book of Finance Gurus.
Our final bit of wisdom comes from Deborah Benton, founder of Willow Growth Partners. She's all about empowering individuals to take control of their financial future. And her advice really resonates with me. She says to have courage and take calculated risks, and to always be learning, always be curious.
I love that. It's like, don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone, but make sure you've done your homework first.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between boldness and prudence, and the always be learning part that's crucial in finance. The moment you think you know it all is the moment you start falling behind.
She sounds like someone I'd want to share a cup of coffee with. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from the importance of choosing the right major and landing those coveted internships to the power of networking and the value of personal growth.
And we've just scratched the surface of what Pat covers in his book. It's packed with even more insights from industry leaders and practical advice that you can start applying today.
It's more than just technical skills and financial savvy. It's about character integrity and having the guts to push your own boundaries. Pat doesn't just tell you how to get the job, he shows you how to become the kind of person who gets hired.
And that's what makes Your Future in Finance such a valuable resource. It's not just a how-to guide, it's a roadmap for personal and professional growth.
I'm starting to think we need a whole other deep dive just to unpack everything we've learned today. But before we get ahead of ourselves,
Let's see what other surprises Pat has in store for us.
It's funny. We often think of finance as this very numbers-driven, almost robotic field.
Right. Spreadsheets, algorithms, the
Yes,
whole nine
yes,
yards.
exactly. But Pat really emphasizes the human side of it all, which I think is so refreshing.
Absolutely. And Deborah Benton, remember her, the founder of Willow Growth Partners. She had another great piece of advice that really drives this point home.
Oh yeah, I'm all ears.
She says, and I quote, "Always know your numbers when presenting."
Okay, that sounds a little more like the finance advice I was expecting.
Right. But here's the thing. It's not enough to just have the numbers. You need to be able to communicate them in a way that's clear, concise, compelling.
So it's about finding that sweet spot between data and storytelling.
Exactly. You need to connect with people on an emotional level, build trust,
Right.
and get them excited about your vision.
Which brings us back to Pat's own journey with Toastmasters. It wasn't just about conquering his fear, it was about mastering a crucial skill for success. It's like he's saying, don't be afraid to invest in yourself, to work on those soft skills that can make all the difference.
And it's not just about public speaking. It's about active listening, building rapport, knowing how to navigate those sometimes tricky interpersonal dynamics.
Especially in a high-stakes world like finance, where relationships are everything.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm ready for our final piece of wisdom from Pat's book of finance gurus.
Well, we've already touched on Deborah Benton's advice about knowing your numbers and being a lifelong learner, but she also emphasizes something that I think is crucial, especially in a field like finance: courage.
Courage. Okay, I wasn't expecting that one. Tell me more.
Benton believes that taking calculated risks is essential for growth and success, especially in a field as dynamic and ever-changing as finance.
So it's not just about crunching numbers and analyzing spreadsheets, it's about having the guts to make bold decisions.
Exactly, because the most successful people in finance are often those who are willing to step outside their comfort zones, to embrace uncertainty, and to make those big bets when the opportunity arises.
It's that whole fortune favors the bold kind of thing.
Exactly. Now, Benton isn't advocating for reckless risk-taking, of course. It's about doing your homework, weighing the potential rewards against the risks, and then having the courage to act on your convictions.
So it's about having a clear head, a calculated approach, and a healthy dose of bravery.
Precisely. And that combination, my friend, is what can really set you apart in the world of finance.
So we've got all these incredible insights from seasoned professionals, but at the heart of it, Pat's book is really about personal growth, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's about developing the skills, the mindset, and the character to thrive in any field, but especially in a field as demanding and rewarding as finance.
It's like he's saying, yes, the technical skills are important, but don't forget to nurture the human side of the equation.
Exactly. Because that's what will ultimately make you stand out, connect with people, and make a real impact.
And that brings us to something that Pat only hints at, but I think it's worth exploring further. So we've talked a lot about the how of building this amazing finance career. But what about the why? Why even bother?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? And it's something Pat actually encourages readers to ask themselves throughout the book.
Makes sense, because at the end of the day, it's not just about chasing profits, right? It's about finding a path that actually aligns with your values.
Exactly. And that's where mentorship comes in, which Pat also talks about, finding someone who's not only successful, but also embodies the values you admire.
Oh, that's huge. Because it's one thing to have a mentor who can teach you the ropes, but it's another thing entirely to have someone who inspires you to be a better person.
Right. Someone who can help you navigate those ethical gray zones.
Yeah.
Because let's be real, you're going to encounter those in any career, but especially in finance.
Because it's easy to get caught up in that pressure to succeed. Sometimes you can lose sight of the bigger picture.
For sure. That's why it's so important to have that strong moral compass to know where you draw the line.
So how do you even find that balance between ambition and integrity, between making a good living but also making a positive impact?
It's tough. It's an ongoing journey, and honestly, there's no easy answer. But I think it starts with being really honest with yourself about what you value most, and then surrounding yourself with people who challenge you to be your best self, both personally and professionally.
Love that. It's like building your own personal board of directors.
Exactly. People who will hold you accountable and celebrate your successes.
So it's like Pat saying, building a successful finance career. It's about more than just mastering those technical skills. It's about cultivating a certain character, a way of being in the world that goes beyond the bottom line.
Precisely. And that's what makes his book so much more than just a career guide. It's a call to action to bring your whole self to the table. Never stop learning and growing, and use your skills and influence to make a positive impact.
Man, I am so glad we dove into this book today. It's got me fired up. So, for anyone listening who's feeling inspired to jump into the world of finance, what are your top takeaways from Pat's book? What should they keep in mind as they're starting out on this journey?
I'd say it boils down to this. Be strategic, be adaptable, and be bold.
Hmm.
But most importantly, be true to yourself.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, listeners, if you're ready to unlock your full potential and chart your own course in the exciting world of finance, we highly recommend checking out Your Future in Finance by Sean Pat. It's packed with practical advice, inspiring stories, and those thought-provoking insights that will stay with you long after you finish the last page.
And remember, the journey is just as important as the destination. So embrace the challenges, celebrate the wins, and never stop learning.
Until next time, keep diving.